Welcome to Sex 101. Sex 101 is created to empower our sexes and relationships for sure. And today I have special guest. She is a keynote speaker as well as a coach, no other than Miss Amy Lenius. Welcome again, Miss Amy on Sex 101. Can you tell yourself about more that I mess?
You know it. I'm so excited to be here again, Daniel. I'm excited for this one. What an exciting topic. I am Amy Lenius. You've talked on another one of your amazing shows, but I'm so excited to be on this one because my original background is in anatomy and physiology and health and wellness. And I went down the route of women's health, not only because it fascinated me so much, but because I myself grew up very sick with a hormonal imbalance condition. And I was able to learn so much about the female anatomy, about our bodies, about our hormones and how they run us and how that works in our day to day lives. And it has just been an incredible journey, not only to heal myself and have that awareness for myself, but that's where I started my public speaking career as well, was in women's anatomy and physiology. I used to give a presentation called Holistic Healing for Your Hormones and just empowering women to understand about their cyclical nature, as well as their counterparts and their partners to understand that cyclical nature as well. So I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world as usual, Miss Amy. And tell us how we can empower women all over the world through in giving them information about the hormonal imbalance.
Yeah. So women are very hormonally driven. Now we all have different hormones in our bodies and they all do different things, and men's and women's are different but also similar in many ways. But I love to just start with the ideology that men are like the sun. You guys
Mm.
cycle on a 24-hour hormonal cycle. So you have your ebbs and flows all in one day. You circle like the sun, 24-hour clock. Whereas women, we are more like the moon. We are slightly different every day, and we are absolutely different mentally, physically, emotionally, week to week to week, for an average of 26 to 34 days. Everyone has a different slight cycle, but that's the window of length on average where we are cycling, and we are different every day and very noticeably different every week. And that is such an empowering thing to know about yourself, about what that looks like every week and what you're set up for mentally, physically, and emotionally, and what you are not set up for mentally, physically, and emotionally, and how you can work your schedule and just your awareness around that knowledge.
Indeed. And Miss Amy, everyone talks about mood swings and hot flashes. What are some of the most surprising or lesser known symptoms of hormonal imbalance that women often overlook or misattribute for something else?
Mm. I think we disassociate from a lot of symptoms because it's common. So for women, a lot of like pain with your cycles, just a lack of energy. And then again, it can branch out into some serious ones like infertility or PCOS or endometriosis. That's the one that I struggled with, or infertility. Like it can go very, very deep hormonal imbalance conditions. But I think what we struggle with understanding as a society is just because it's common amongst women doesn't mean that it's normal or okay. The fact that even women, like our periods are not supposed to be painful at all. We're supposed to have lower energy. We're supposed to feel just a different time. It's supposed to feel more introverted. It's supposed to feel like we need to rest and eat very nourishing foods and things, but we're not supposed to be incapacitated with pain, but we all assume we're supposed to be because most of us are. So in Canada, which you're in Canada, you're in BC, you're in Vancouver,
Hmm.
1 in 8 women in Canada, 1 in 8 deal with some sort of hormonal imbalance condition, whether it be polycystic ovarian syndrome, that PCOS, endometriosis, infertility, painful periods, anything like that. And so that's a pretty high stat. And that I haven't even looked at the stat recently. That was
Hmm.
from at least 5 years ago, that stat. So I guarantee it's actually gotten worse, I would argue. But it's so empowering to know, first of all, that that is not normal. It's just common. And the more we can talk about it and the more we can realize that our day to day lives can actually support our hormones rather than hinder them unconsciously, the more we can start having a healthier rhythm with those hormones.
Miss Amy, we often focus on estrogen and progesterone. How do other key players like cortisol, thyroid, hormones, and insulin interact to create either harmony or chaos in woman's body?
When everything is in harmony, they all work together really well, even though sometimes they do opposing things. So, when we talk about women's health, estrogen and progesterone are pretty much the dominant ones, although we do have our own little surge of testosterone, which actually is my favorite thing. Because when women have a surge of testosterone, it's typically during their periods and during when people say that we're the most difficult, let's say. And it's like, well, actually, we're the most hormonally like men in those
Mhm.
moments. So that's something to think about and look at.
For
But
sure.
estrogen, right? Estrogen and progesterone, as much as they are best friends, they're very different. They have the same goal, but they show up very differently. So, estrogen keeps us very excited, very social, very, this is when we are interested in being more sexually active, is when we're in our estrogen peak. And that very middle season of our cycle during ovulation is when estrogen takes over. And that's when we can deal with stress easier. When cortisol comes up, is not as detrimental when we're in a high estrogen season during that ovulation, that mid cycle. Now, when progesterone takes over, that season of estrogen drops, and then progesterone comes in right before our periods. It's called our luteal phase, that premenstrual phase. That is actually when we don't tolerate stress very well. That is when we have high bits of cortisol, it actually is very detrimental to our progesterone. We don't do as well with glucose and insulin spikes in this season as well. Or sorry, it's the opposite. We need more glucose during this stage, and we are less and more insulin sensitive during this stage too. So there's so many little nuances, but they all want to work together, but they all have their own harmony and flow. And so we flow in and out of them. We don't have equal amounts of these things all the time. And so that premenstrual phase, when we hear, oh, she's PMSing, oh, she's so hormonal, it's like, yes. However, because we are in a season of progesterone, we're more set up to assess our environment. We're more set up to assess, okay, what is not stable here? What is frustrating me right now? When we were in our previous season a week ago, we were carefree. We were fun and fancy free. We didn't care about stress. We didn't care about the things in our environment driving us nuts. We were more interested in social activities, being more engaging. We were fun, carefree, like I said. And now that we're coming into this premenstrual phase, we know that we're either about to feel like we want to hibernate because we have our periods, or we're going to be pregnant. That's basically the cycle that's constantly running. Can I get pregnant? Am I pregnant? Oh, okay, not yet. That's our internal dialogue with our hormones. And so you're very much primed to really assess your environment, and you want to clean it up, and you want to really notice the things that are frustrating you, because you know you're about to enter a season where you need extra care. And so those things are always there. Those things are still bothering us during those other few weeks of our beginning of our cycle, but we don't feel mentally, emotionally ready or set up to actually express those needs until this season, this luteal phase right before our periods. And so again, we get pointed out as, oh, you're extra hormonal this week, or you're extra critical this week. It's like, yes, but I'm mentally set up to be that way. And so even knowing that about ourselves, instead of letting that run wild unconsciously, we can say, hey, My brain is primed to notice the things that are frustrating me right now. This can be a tool because frustration is really important. Frustration shows you where things are not up to your standards and it's time to make a change. So it's really, really powerful. But we also can learn not to take that out in an unaligned way on the people around us. We can learn to communicate in a healthier way. But I think it's really, really important to let our partners know, our intimate partners, our even, I mean, depending on who you share a space with. This is really important. Who you
Mhm.
share a space with. If they're primed to understand you, then that is such a win. So I live in a household with two young boys, 10 and 12, and my husband, and they all understand where I'm at in my cyclical nature because we don't hide it from anybody. And so they know when it's time to help me relax. They know when it's time to really be extra caring of me. And they know that I'm going to communicate with them in a healthy way. Hey, boys, mommy's actually feeling not as patient today. So I am going to do my best and I need your guys' help to do your best as well. And we're going to work on this together. And then if I do have moments of impatience, that is on me to apologize to my children, to the people around me. So we can really set up our environment for success and our mental health for success if we know these things about ourselves instead of having them constantly run unconsciously and we don't even know why we're reacting a certain way or why we feel a certain way. And so if we can start doing that in a conscious way instead of an unconscious way, it takes a lot of shame and guilt away from women. There is so many times where I am coaching women and they say, "Oh my gosh, last week I was on fire. I was consistent. I was crushing my workouts. I was doing well at work. My presentations went awful. And now this week I'm a potato. I feel like crap. I can't figure anything out. I'm not being consistent. I don't have any energy." And it's like, and they're just like, "What is wrong with me? Why do I suck so bad?" And it's like, you know what? It's not you. It's every woman. We all cycle that way. And so, yes, last week you were crushing it and you were set up for success, again, hormonally, mentally, physically. This week you're not. So, how can you, even though your schedule maybe can't change, how can you show up differently for yourself? How can you give yourself more grace, more understanding, more care, and do what you need to do to just be, again, an empowered, conscious version versus an unconscious version that creates a lot of shame, guilt, and misunderstanding?
Miss Amy, how can a woman begin to track her symptoms in a way that helps identity a potential pattern or imbalance rather than just seeing them as unrelated issues?
Yeah, that's a great connection. Is seeing them as unrelated issues when in reality they're all probably correlated. That's genuinely the reason why I fell in love with the word holistic was because of my healing journey. It didn't just involve my uterus that wasn't functioning properly. It was a whole mess of things because your hormones are tied to, yes, your stress internally and externally, your gut health, your liver health, your sleep, your environment, endocrine disruptors. There's so much that goes into it. But I think tracking is one of the best things that you can do to get to know yourself. So if you start tracking, what's really wonderful is now we all carry cell phones around in our pockets that are basically mini supercomputers. There are so many wonderful apps that you can use to track your cycle. And day one is always the first day of your period. And so if you can start tracking then, and then it shows up for you and starts painting a picture over a few months, a lot of these apps allow you to just click boxes of what your symptoms are day to day to day, week to week, and it starts to paint a really beautiful picture for you. And I think that that's a really good way to get started and to get to understand your body because it'll track your libido. Hey, are you feeling a little more frisky today or not? That's a really good indicator of where you're at in your cycle. And again, it's really good for your partner to know as well, because when they know that you're in a certain season, you are more interested in that kind of activity versus maybe you're needing something different from them. And so to start from day one and understand that you start in what is called inner winter. And so, just like how we can use the sun and the moon, we can use the seasons of the world to understand our cycle as well. You start in inner winter. And so when you're on your period, that is your inner winter. And think of the feelings and the vibe that comes around with winter. You want to hibernate. You feel very internal, very slow. It's very quiet. You prefer quiet. You prefer to just be in a nourishing state. And then when that season ends, stuff starts to become more clear. You start to come out of your shell a little bit, just like in spring, you start to blossom. Energy starts to come back, and this is a season of creativity. If you work in any kind of creative field where you're maybe creating content or digital art or art of any kind, or you have any kind of creative aspect to the things you love to do or your work, if you can schedule them in this inner spring in your follicular season, you are more mentally set up to do it well. And then ovulation comes. That's your inner summer. Think summer. You're excited. You want to get out there. You want to swim. You want to
Yes.
go to barbecues. You want to have margaritas. You want to go dancing. Like summer is its own whole energy. And that is when you're ovulating. That is peak estrogen season. That is also peak libido season. So if you know that about yourself and your partner knows that about yourself, there is a higher chance of more frequent and excited yeses in that moment than in other seasons. You have a higher chance of having a higher libido and wanting to have that kind of intimacy for the first few weeks of your cycle versus the last week and a half to 2 weeks. So again,
Miss,
knowing that about
yes.
yourself.
Yes, know
Mhm.
yourself, people. And Miss Amy, how are our modern lifestyles with chronic stress, processed foods, and environmental toxins creating the tidal wave or hormonal issues that our bodies were not designed to handle?
Yeah, our modern world is everything we don't need for hormonal health, unfortunately. So, as women, when you look back on all of the studies that have been done for health and how the way that even the world works, the scheduling, the everything, it was all done based on studies on men. Now, that's wonderful for some of the population, but for the other half of the population, it has been actually extremely detrimental for our cyclical nature. And so I know we can't get out of the 9 to 5, and we can't, I mean, we can, but again, if you just choose to stay there, that's something to know about yourself as well. But we can still adapt in our own ways. Now, environmentally and stress wise, again, we are not set up for success hormonally. So let's start with stress. Our bodies treat any kind of stress, whether you and I are in the woods, Daniel, being chased by a bear,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe we're just in an argument and a disagreement. Our bodies react the same way physically. And the thing that we're supposed to be able to do, we're supposed to flow into a state of stress, of fight or flight, that sympathetic nervous system that kicks on that says, okay, I need to fight, freeze, fawn, run, whatever that looks like. And then we're supposed to be able to come back down when the danger is gone. Okay, the bear is gone. I am now safe in my village. The hunters are going to make sure it's okay. I'm going to go gather some berries and just find my peace. That's how it used to be. But now our bodies are reacting to constant stress and stimulant. And so our cortisol, that stress hormone, doesn't have the ability to flow in and out. We're actually, most of us, constantly living in this state of fight or flight. And that is very detrimental to us because what happens is, you know how I talked about in that premenstrual phase, it's actually called your inner fall, that luteal phase, where we get that beautiful arch of progesterone.
Yes.
Women deeply struggle in this season. So if you find your premenstrual phase is extremely low, I'm talking low mood, terrible negative thoughts, low energy, you are not getting enough of your progesterone arc. That big, beautiful arc is not coming in. So naturally during that season, our serotonin drops. Our serotonin is a hormone that happens in our body that gives us a good mood. It allows us to deal with stress and positive and have positive feelings, but it just naturally drops in that season, which is typically okay because progesterone is supposed to come in and counteract that. Progesterone is basically an anti-anxiety, anti-stress hormone. However, if we are in a state of stress and we are in a constant state of stress, our body needs to keep producing more cortisol. But we're not designed to do so. We're designed to have a burst of it and then bring it back down. But our body has found this workaround superpower, which is actually to our detriment, to say, hey, I'm still in a state of stress. I need more cortisol. Oh, look at this progesterone over here. I can actually change this progesterone into more cortisol. And so the more stress we have for the longer amount of time, our progesterone actually drops because it's being converted into cortisol. And so when we have low progesterone and high cortisol, and again, it's the chicken and the egg, those two cycles are a negative feedback for each other. We really struggle PMS wise. We really struggle in our cycles, and we're going to struggle over time to eventually what leads to adrenal burnout or adrenal fatigue. And so these things all stack on one another. So stress is one of the most important things to be conscious of externally, internally, people, places, things, ideas. And if we bring things in, there's things that cause us emotionally and mental stress, and there's things that cause actual harmful stress to our bodies. And those are called endocrine disruptors. And like you said, in the products that we use and the toxins that are around, there are so many things that we use, especially women. Women on average tend to use more endocrine disruptors than men because we like to do makeup and hair products and all of the extra things that come along with standards for women. They're just riddled full of these endocrine disruptors. And what they do is they seep in through our skin because, yes, as much as our skin is a protective barrier, it's also our most absorption. It's our most absorptive organ. And so those endocrine disruptors come in to our space and they look like hormones. And so if we have a cell going through our body saying, you know what? I would be a more harmonious cell if I could have some estrogen today. So it sends a signal, our body gets the signal, our chemicals mix and match, and they produce estrogen. And then estrogen comes along and binds to that cell. And now it is a happy, healthy little cell in its own little version of homeostasis, and it moves on with its day. However, if we have endocrine disruptors going through our system, it finds those cells and says, hey, I look like I fit here. And then it binds to that cell, and the signals to produce the estrogen and things gets disrupted. And so as much as that is happening throughout the body millions and millions of times a day, through all the endocrine disruptors, and again, we have trillions of cells, so this is happening quite extensively, those feedback loops get interrupted. And so our hormone production gets interrupted, and our body gets bogged down with these toxins that look like they're supposed to be there, but definitely are not. So if you are struggling with your hormones, I urge you to assess your intake of estrogen disruptors, what is in your products that you were using in your home, and to assess your stress and how can you bring that down, because that is going to help you as well.
Miss Amy, what is the critical link between gut health and hormonal balance? How can issues in the gut directly manifest as hormonal problems?
Yeah. So if your gut is not healthy, then you are not healthy. The gut is one of those things. It's called the second brain. It produces hormones. It has so many different functions outside of just digestion. And I think where the medical system didn't set me up for success was when they only wanted to talk to me about my female anatomy. That was it. Okay, let's just assess this. Well, this looks like this. You should be better by now. Or we can just keep surgically doing this, or we can remove certain parts for you and then you should be better. When in reality, I did not get healthier until I assessed my liver function. Your liver is very directly correlated with your hormones and your stress. My gut, that mattered so much because not only does your gut influence your whole body, it also produces certain things like the serotonin I was talking about. Serotonin gives you a nice, really beautiful boost of positive feelings. And if your gut isn't healthy, it can't do that to the level that you need it to. And so your gut has all of these different cells in it. You know, people say, oh, I felt it in my gut. I knew in my gut that I needed to do this thing or talk to this person or something. It's because you have those kind of cells, just like in your brain, in there as well. They're also discovering you have certain similar cells in your brain as you do in your heart too. So, oh, I made this, I can feel this in my heart. I can feel this in my gut. I can feel this in my brain. There's so many variety things here. And so again, you are not just pieces, you are a whole puzzle. And these pieces all come together in that. And so I think we always need to remember that we are a functioning being. Our entire internal environment is a community, and they work together. And if one is struggling, the rest will follow. And so remember that you are just this whole being, and it's always going to be the chicken and the egg. Well, what do I start with? My gut, my liver, my hormones? You know what? At this point, if you're struggling, I guarantee all of them need a little bit of support. So just start with whatever one feels good to you and then go from there. People always asked me on my healing journey, well, what was the one thing that fixed everything? And I don't have a super exciting, sexy answer to give you. It was a compound of many different things that I implemented over time, that I had to find that worked for me and made sense for me and my lifestyle. And so I urge you to also do the same and find support in doing so, because someone out there will support you in what you want to do. And if you are struggling with your libido, again, this is Sex 101, your hormones are very much linked to that. But as women, so are our emotions. We are emotionally driven beings. So if we are not feeling emotionally well or emotionally connected to our partner, that deeply affects our libido. And so maybe these are some things that can help you with that.
Yes, indeed. And Miss Amy, what is the process of helping the body regain its natural rhythm after coming off hormonal birth control, or what support is needed?
Yes. So again, any kind of support you can find is going to be valuable here, because there are some highs and there are some lows on journeys of getting off of or even onto hormonal replacement therapy, if that is the journey for you, if you decide to go that way. Support for sure, because I think we all need to understand and be validated in the low moments, not just the high moments. Hormones, hormone therapy, getting off or on it is an emotional roller coaster. It really is. And your body needs time. I don't think as humans we give ourselves the grace and understanding of time as much as we need to anymore, because we're in an instant gratification season as a human populace. Everything becomes very easily accessible. We can just go from thing to thing to thing to thing, when in reality our body needs time. So whatever it is that you are implementing, trust that it takes time for it to work. Your body is working on deeper layers than what you can subjectively superficially perceive. So sometimes it's healing things deeper than the superficial symptoms that are coming your way. So we have to give the body time to heal and time to react and get comfortable with this new state of being, especially when we're decreasing stress, because stress becomes our comfort zone. Stress becomes where our nervous system feels regulated. So when you're coming down from a life of stress, your body, your mind, your emotions are going to actually start seeking stress out to get back to what it thinks is a regular day for you. So there's so much in there that needs to be paid attention to. And that's why tracking is going to be your best friend. Tracking how you feel, tracking how you're doing, getting into those apps and taking notes for yourself so that you understand you, and that you can understand when your highs are, when your lows are, what they're correlated to, and how you can support yourself. So I really urge you to track and just get to know yourself to start, and then see where you can start implementing sustainably along the way.
Definitely. And Miss Amy, for women feeling overwhelmed by these symptoms, what is the single most impactful first step she can take this week to start her journey back to balance?
Awareness and acceptance. And I know those symptoms are a pain in the ass and they are terrible and they're running your life. I see you in that. I do. Start to become aware of the fact that you do not have to live with those symptoms. It starts mentally first. The women that struggled the most in my programs were the ones that struggled with the belief that this isn't normal for their body. They
Mm.
struggled with the belief factor that this is how they should be feeling because they're women. Because I'm a woman, I'm supposed to be able to deal with a certain amount of pain. Because I'm a woman, I'm supposed to be able to carry the weight of the world on my back while I'm bleeding. There's so many narratives and beliefs that are built into our systems. And the only way you can start healing is actually to start busting those beliefs first, so that you can actually start to heal along the way and believe that healing is possible.
Miss Amy, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my book and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast. Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and my movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Amy, having seen countless women transform their health, what is your biggest message of hope for someone who feels like their body has betrayed them and they'll never feel like themselves again?
Oh, one, I see you. I see you so deeply. If you are in the thick of it and you feel like I used to call my body a broken piece of garbage. Genuinely. I thought it was just this broken piece of garbage that I would constantly be in a fight with for the rest of my days. So I do see you if that's where you are. And I just want you to know that it can get better. It can. And I know we want to do these big drastic things or this one thing in hopes that it fixes everything. And if one thing doesn't work, then maybe I can't be helped. I'm the exception. I am the broken one. You're not. You just haven't found the thing that's going to work for you yet. And maybe you haven't given yourself permission enough to start small and to start empowering yourself with education. Again, it's lovely to lean on practitioners and medical people that you believe can help you. But if they don't help you and you don't believe they can help you, move on to someone else. First of all, if this person is not agreeing with you or they're gaslighting you in your symptoms, that happens to women more times than I would even like to talk about because it's so frustrating. Go find someone else. Someone will listen to you, someone will help you, and just trust that it's going to take time. Small wins are going to serve you over the all or nothing process that isn't.
Yes, let it go, people. Let it go, Miss Amy Lenius. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything that you want to promote right now?
Oh, of course. My DMs are always open. Instagram and Facebook, it's just at Amy Lenius. Like I said, I work with Next Level University now, and we are a professional personal development success company, but I still bring this knowledge into everything that I do. I work with a lot of women on their goals and their belief systems and their success, and this work comes into it all the time. But if you just need someone to talk to, someone who can validate your feelings and your stress and your feelings of hopelessness in this season, I am also happy just to be an ear as well because I was there myself.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Amy Lenius because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering coaching to come. And for sure, speaking for sure. So, Miss Amy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.